these decisions around
Hello, I
personnel, who you
am
hire,
back again. I'm
who's in
kind
the
of on a roll,
doghouse, right? There's a sort of
so I'm gonna
sense
just
that the
keep
news is being made in these
posting
very
while
small increments,
it's
and that we
hot.
have to track and we have to focus on each of these increments, each of these.
I cannot help but notice how the mainstream media so obviously, to me, dance around every issue. The talking heads, no matter who it is, they dance around things. Everyone is afraid of offending the paymaster. That's why we can't get shit done. I'm going to talk about music, but right quick, I want to say this because I got your attention. That's why I applaud the youth of today. That's why I applaud Greta for just being who she is and speaking on behalf of everyone. It's a shame to see some of the negative response to her from people who don't understand that she is advocating on their behalf. There's nothing political about biology, for God's sake. Man, this world is just a mess. Pardon me. I just needed to get these things out. What got me to post today is a couple things. I wanted to acknowledge good morning. Well, hello, Stephanie, whenever you see this. Hello, Carm. Yes, brother, we are friends. I feel your spirit. Keith, who says nice things. Another person I see regularly now is a first person named Phil. Hello, Phil. I decided to share something today in relation to yesterday. Yesterday was John Coltrane's birthday. I forget how old he would be if he were still alive. John Coltrane was truly an amazing, groundbreaking musician who moved jazz forward, music forward in many ways. Giant Steps, the composition Giant Steps is something to eternally learn from. I can barely play it. I spent almost 5 years with my brother working on it so I could play through it with him on gigs. And I got to the point where I couldn't, and I still didn't understand what I was doing. Still working on it. But I have a John Coltrane story, which for a long time, as I got older and started to realize who John Coltrane was, I was afraid that what I remembered was one of those. I have had things happen where I've wondered, did it really happen? Do you have those memories? Well, this is one because it was so surreal. Turns out it's true. Okay, so here's the deal. My dad is from Paducah, Kentucky, but was raised in Chicago. My grandmother, his mom, was a doer, and she ran a business that was popular with musicians and just real people. Maybe kind of guess what that might be. So my dad was exposed to all kinds of people, all kinds of stuff, in particular musicians. And he, becoming a musician himself, he got involved with a lot of people. And when we moved to Omaha, those connections remained. So I remember as a small boy, people coming through town, jamming, coming to the house and jamming and eating and with us and hanging out. People like Dexter Gordon, Johnny Griffin, and Red Holloway were like uncles to me. They came through regularly. They were like family, very close to my dad. The blues musician T-Bone Walker. The person I do not remember but was at our house, many people told me about it, was Miles Davis. But the one that I do remember, and I'm proud of this, is John Coltrane. I met John Coltrane, I was just a little boy. But yesterday was John Coltrane's birthday. I just got a few John Coltranes. I'm going to show what I have, but the story is, and this is the truth. I don't have the record anymore, but Coltrane was coming through town, possibly touring or going to Kansas City or something, and he stopped by the house and he had dinner with us. And besides having dinner with us, he had a single out off of his latest album. I forget the name of the song, but my dad was going to go to the local record store and buy a copy of the 45 along with John Coltrane. And I think I was maybe 6 or 7 at the time. I was already crazy about music and records. And so my dad let me go along with them. So I got to go to the record store, see my dad buy a 45 by John Coltrane. I got to hold John Coltrane's hand. Here's the other thing that solidified the fact that it was John Coltrane, because I kept calling him Mr. Coltrane, Mr. Coltrane, Coltrane, and they said, no, Dereck, it's Coltrane, like a coal train. And we lived by the rail yard, Union Pacific, and that's when I got his name right, Mr. Coltrane. And it was so sweet. And then he held me on his lap for a while. I was maybe 6 or 7 years old. So I've been blessed to be in the presence of John Coltrane, literally. I mean, held in his arms. I don't have nearly enough John Coltrane, but I'll show what I have. I don't have nearly what I would like to have, because, you know, like Miles Davis, there are umpteen John Coltrane issues. As we get to it, I'll show you what I pulled getting to the Coltrane. Compost, Jack DeJohnette's fusion band rock, again ahead of its time. The next one in line is this one, Commuters, with Dagmar Krause and Harold Schellings, and the other guy I don't know. This is way cool. Commuters, Dagmar Krause. The next one is Comfortable Chair. Rock from it's got to be the 60s. Produced by 2 members of The Doors, Robbie Krieger and John Densmore. This is a good album, Comfortable Chair. And then these are not in order, but then we get into my Coltrane. This one has a lot of memories for me because my dad loved this album, Ballads. He used to play this one a lot. And the other thing I remember about Coltrane, my dad was a musician, played trumpet, sax, played all the instruments, but he ended up becoming primarily a tenor sax player. And he studied John Coltrane deeply and was learning. He was able to he was getting there. My dad was a great musician, a handful of a personality. He was trouble, but he could play. Africa Brass. There's only one John Coltrane. I should have pulled my Alice Coltrane, but that'll be another time. Live at the Village Vanguard again. I got to see John Coltrane's son, Robbie Coltrane, with Jerry Allen and Jeff Tain Watts at the Village Vanguard. So I've been to the Village Vanguard. The recent Lost album that was issued, played this for my brother recently. We really enjoyed it. It's nothing earth-shattering, but it's like what my brother said, was just nice to hear something different, something new by the master. A reissue. No, this is not John Coltrane's best album, but it is one of those albums that it's just an important thing that happened when he made this record, A Love Supreme. He has records that are way more intense and more interesting. This is just an important event in the history of man. I'll put it that large for me. It's beyond music. John Coltrane was very important. Okay, he was sticking together. I just shove them in there, you know, so it's my fault these sleeves are in shape. Selflessness, featuring my favorite things. Sonship. One of the first Coltrane records I actually bought with my own money. The Coltrane Legacy. And if you can see, it's beat and it's old. I've had this one since my teens. This is the first John Coltrane record that I actually bought with my own money. Training In with Red Garland. Let's keep going. Here's one that I love, the Avant-Garde, John Coltrane and Don Cherry. The Last Train. You just, if you don't know John Coltrane's music, you need to. You do. I love this cover. Coltrane's Sound. Here's one that was given to me. I forget who gave it to me. Someone sent this to me not that long ago. John Coltrane in the Winner's Circle. Old school. Here we have it. My favorite things. This one is pretty well known by now, and for good reason. Black Pearl. Okay. The music speaks for itself. Of course I love John Coltrane. Of course I love the blues. I just don't like to listen to it. John Coltrane plays the blues. Yes, I do understand the importance of being able to play the blues. I do. John Coltrane, Wilbur Hardin, Countdown, the Savoy Sessions. Here's one where it's like, yeah, I can't remember the last time I played this. I should play this. Giant Steps. Highly recommend this album right here. Giant Steps. Highly recommend it. And then my most collectible John Coltrane album, and it is very collectible. And this is an original. And I bought this in the 70s. Jazz critic who passed away a few years ago, Will Smith, who wrote for Downbeat, was from Omaha and was friends with my dad. And when both my dad and I were working as security guards at the World Herald newspaper where Will Smith worked, I'll never forget this. One time he says, hey, a friend of mine is selling his collection. You know, you guys want to get in on this. And it was great. It was like we met down in the garage and we're looking in this guy's car, trunk of his car, buying these records, amazing records. When I saw this album, I passed it, and Will Smith stopped me and said, you must get this record. You don't know what you're passing. I said, okay. I mean, I knew about John Coltrane, but the record, the cover, was not interesting. And he said, no, you want to get this record. And he was right. John Coltrane, Alice Coltrane, Cosmic Music. This was the first release on their own label, the Coltrane Recording Corporation. This is an original. This was only recently finally reissued. And if you look this up on Discogs, this is pricey to get a copy. And this is an original. And I love this album. This is the Cosmic Fire spiritual music of John Coltrane. And I'll show the record it is. It's the first run, not the second. And this is in pristine shape. So this is, all my records are prizes, but this one is one where if I really fell on really hard times and I needed to make some fast money, this would be one of the first records that I could go to that commands a price. I sure in the hell don't want to sell it. Of course not, don't want to sell it. And I'm so thankful that Will Smith had the presence of mind to make sure that I bought it. He said, you can't not buy this album. So I did end up pulling a couple of Alice Coltrane's as well. Which one is this? Radha Krishna Nama Sankirtana. Another thing I'd like to share is I understand, because I haven't seen this, but I understand that when John Coltrane passed, my dad was so close that she wrote my dad a letter about it, and that this letter surfaced among my grandmother's belongings. That's what I'm told. I haven't seen the letter, so don't quote me. And then this album is fantastic, Eternity by Alice Coltrane. Nothing but deep love for that music. That's what I want to share with you today. Once again, thank goodness for Greta and the youth saying, listen, this is not a hot topic that will just fade like many things. The news will show something and then something else will come along and we'll forget all about that issue, and it's like it never existed. But this is different. This is the planet we live on, and what's the effects of climate change aren't going to go away because we don't want to talk about it. We have to do something. We have to make an attempt. And the thing that I understand is that this will directly affect the way that I personally live. But it's important that it start with leadership. You know, just little individuals doing things is good, but if we don't have an en masse response to this, we're fucked. And thank goodness that, like I said, Greta is leading the charge by saying, that's enough of this bullshit. This is not playtime. It's not.